When it comes to the bad movies of February, most of them were just sort of generic or bland. And to be honest, there's really only one movie, or no, there's really only two movies that are deserving of this list, but I made 5 best. Time to do 5 worst of February 2019. All right, my number 5, honestly, I did give it 3 stars in my review, but that's because I rounded up. It was just enough to give it a 3, but in the actual score, it is below that. So number 5 is Happy Death Day to You. I like the first one much better. The blend of the genres was just more balanced. Granted, this was a good movie for a romance, and fittingly, it was released on Valentine's Day, but overall, it was just sort of... I was more of a mixed bag, actually, because there were some things that I really enjoyed about it. And then there were things that are just disappointing. Number 2 was another movie that I think is just average, and it has sparks of something really great in it, but ultimately it's just an average, pretty bland horror movie, and it is The Prodigy. It has one really great scene, and I see the potential in it, but it was ruined right away, right off the bat. At the very beginning of the movie, it was ruined, just like The Possession of Hannah Grace, where automatically we know, okay, the person is possessed, no mystery with that, and that basically takes out all the mystery and all the suspense that could have happened in the movie, which ultimately doesn't, because the beginning of it ruined it for us. Number 3 is a very bland action film, and it is Miss Bala. It's an American remake. I haven't seen the original, but I've heard good things about the original. Unfortunately, the American remake is pretty bland. It's nothing that I could say was horrible, but it's nothing that I could say was good about it. It was just generic and just eh. And that's about it. That's enough to get it in the bottom spot of a month. Now, the worst 2 movies of February, they are deserving of this list. And I thought this movie was going to be the worst of February, but then I saw something far worse than that. So number 2 is What Men Want. I didn't get to review this. I wish I did, because this was irritating to watch. I didn't laugh a single moment in this. No, scratch that. There was probably about 2 chuckles or smiles that occurred in the movie. But for the most part, I was just annoyed and irritated. I will say that it wasn't as bad as I thought. I was expecting far worse. And in the end, it is a competent enough rom-com. Like, in the sense where it is everything stereotypical and cliched about him. Basically everything that Isn't It Romantic makes fun of is in What Men Want. Like, almost everything. Down to a T. And in the end, it's just your stereotypical bad, generic rom-com with some irritating comedy. And loud, irritating comedy thrown in the mix. So I did not enjoy this movie at all. Now, in my best of February, I mentioned that I had to hold off the list because a movie came out in March, the first week of March, and a movie came out the second week of March. One of them was a good movie. Arctic was a good movie. The other one was bad, and it managed to be the worst movie of February at the moment for me, and it is Run the Race. I talked about how Fighting with My Family was an actual good sports drama that I enjoyed. I'm not a big fan of sports dramas. It takes a lot for me to ultimately like one or even say a sports drama is okay. This movie was not that. It it is so bizarre. I'm going to have to talk about this movie eventually. I'm going to have to review this movie because it fails as a sports drama and it fails as a religious film as well, because towards the second half of the film, it turns into a religious film all of a sudden, and a really bad one at that. So it's poorly acted. Dialogue's horrible. Cliched as hell. It's like they throw in all the cliches of a sports drama they could possibly think of. And it's just blended so poorly. And just like Medea, A Family Reunion, I actually got to see editing mistakes in this film as well. It's so weird to see a movie in theaters and see obvious editing mistakes that you wouldn't expect a movie to be released in theaters to have. Like in Medea Family Funeral, there was a moment where in the same day, it went from night to day to night. In Run the Race, it's less obvious of a flaw, but it's a very noticeable flaw for me, where it is just people talking at a table in a diner, and there's instead of napkins or a napkin stand, it's the kind of diner that has a rack with a paper towel roll over it, so it's like vertical, and it's right in front of the dad, and there's this intense moment where the dad slowly leans forward and crosses his fingers and puts his hands over the toilet paper rack. So the not toilet paper, the paper towel roll, sorry. But you clearly see it because it's right there. He goes over it dramatically. It cuts to a shot where it shows the whole table, and you can clearly see the father have his hands behind the toilet paper. Sorry, fuck, I keep seeing toilet paper. The hand towel, the paper towel roll. Cuts back to a close-up of the father. It's over again. And then cut back to the whole table. It's behind again. Without the father moving. Because they must have taken two different takes. One where he put his hands around, and one where he put his hands behind. And they just tried to combine the two shots to make a scene. This was one cheap, really bad movie. And I can't believe we actually got it in theaters. I was pleasantly surprised when we got Arctic. I was shocked we got this in theaters. So those were the top 5 worst February films of 2019. Did you get to see any of them? What'd you think about them? Go ahead and comment below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews or countdowns of this year or previous years of whatever. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.